Doing you all.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Curtis Koenig. I'm the 2013 chapter leader for OWASP Louisville. There's a couple of other board members here. We've got Brian Blankenship, Adrian Crenshaw, and you're new to the board, aren't you?
No, I'm not. No.
Are you sure you're on all our emails?
Yeah.
You're on the board now. Guess what? You've been welcomed to the board. If you haven't figured out already, it's a pretty loose organization. Today is really meant to reboot what OWASP is for the local community. We've been sort of dormant for a while due to people changing jobs and moving around. So a lot of today's presentation is going to focus on what OWASP is, what kind of projects are out there, what we as a community can do here in Louisville, and then ways to get involved if you want to get involved. Like I said, my name is Curtis. I'm the Senior Security Program Manager for the Mozilla Corporation. So if you ever used Firefox or Thunderbird, that's us. I'm one of only 2 security program managers at the company. I think I was the first one 2 years ago, and believe it or not, today is my 2nd anniversary with the company today. So I'm kind of having some fun being able to do this, and I wrote a blog post this morning and just kind of goofing around. It's nice to have work where you have lots of OWASP people, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So a little bit of a show of hands. Who's our first time in an OWASP meeting? Wow, lots of first timers. That's awesome. Who's been to one of our meetings before? Awesome. Who's a web developer? Who's a client developer? Nobody. Okay, good. Lots of web people. Who's involved in security where they work? Who just wants to learn more about security? Good. Lots of hands. I was hoping all my hands would go up in the last one. You know, that's sort of why we're here. For those of you who've never heard it before, OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. It is a 501(c)(3). It is free to the whole world, to anybody who wants to show up. There are no membership dues of any kind. The only membership dues there are is if you want to pay to be a full voting member, you can. And all that gives you the right to do is vote for who our board is worldwide, not the local board. The local board, me and Brian, you can vote for us or not vote for us or however the hell we want to do that. But the worldwide board, there is actually, you get to cast a vote on how the organization is run. The mission is to make application security visible, accessible to the public, and help people who wouldn't otherwise understand make informed decisions about application security and what they do on the internet. Everyone is welcome to participate. Like I said, everything we do is under free and open source software licenses, which is part of the reason Mozilla, who I work for, is a massive supporter of this. And towards the end of this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about how Mozilla supports OWASP and some of the things that we do to try and contribute back to it, and then how do we use the projects actually to get stuff done. So I've already mentioned this a little bit. We have some core values. The first one being that we are open. We are radically transparent. Our board meetings are open. Our mailing lists are open. Our entire website is open. Our entire code base is open. There is no secret anything at OWASP. And it's designed to be that way so that we can encourage other people to join us. Even people who just want to wander in off the street. You've got some kid in high school that's interested or a mom that's worried about internet security. They're likely to be able to find an expert on that topic somewhere in OWASP. It's very different in that we support innovative experimentation. OWASP started out as a bunch of people that just were really concerned about web security, created a couple of open projects, gave them away on the web, and the thing just sort of grew from there. I have a slide later of just the new projects for some of the new projects in 2012, and it's a pretty long list. There's a lot of stuff out there that is given away. It's global. There are OWASP chapters. I've got a map a little later that will show you some of the chapters around the world. There's lots of them. And being on the OWASP leaders list with Brian and a few of the other people in the room, it's interesting to have discussions. Like someone recently posted, hey, OWASP Algeria needs people to come speak. Are you interested? Or hey, we're going to hold this security conference. Because a local chapter can just decide to hold a security conference as part of what they're doing. And another big one is integrity. What we put out, we want to be honest and truthful. We are absolutely 100% vendor neutral. You should never, ever at an OWASP function have someone trying to sell you their software package for fixing your security problem. We may occasionally have a sponsor, especially we've done that here a few times at our chapter, who's willing to pay for lunch when we can get them to do that. And we usually give them a few minutes to say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do, just as a thank you for them for providing the money. But they don't sell their product to you during an OWASP meeting. We don't do again, what does this open approach mean? We have a rough consensus for everything we do. If you want to get involved in something at OWASP, you just say you want to be involved and you start joining the discussion. And it's a rough consensus. So people just sort of talk about it on email. They may write some code and put it out there for other people to play with. Or they may even write some of the guidelines. The OWASP Top 10 is a massive discussion. It is probably the largest running discussion on the email mailing list right now because they're getting ready to reiterate. It means everything is free to use and modify. That means you can take the code base, download it, modify it, use it any way you like. We would hope that if you make modifications, you would contribute that back to the open model. But the open model does allow for people to take open source software and create pay-for software or pay-for services if you so choose, assuming you have not violated the original license agreement. You might need to read carefully. It's massively independent. You can work on it on your own. Like Adrian wrote a great tool a few years ago called Multi-Today that is taken off now. I think it's partly under OWASP.
It's partly, and Jeremy Druin's taken over most of it at this point, pretty much all of it at this point.
But you can just decide you want to create something interesting and share it with the community, or you want to work it on your own. There's a lot of stuff out there that will help you learn about open web application security on your own, or even use it at your place of business to teach other people about it. We're hugely into information sharing. We share everything we possibly can. If we gather data on something, it comes out in a free and open paper. You'll never see it on an OWASP website asking for you to pay for it. It'll be in PDF form or some other easily consumable format. We're looking for the widest possible participation we can get. Again, that's the whole open thing. Massive repetition. And everyone is a peer. So even though I'm the chapter leader, that doesn't give me any more rights than you as someone who shows up to one of our meetings, or even any less rights than, say, the global chair of OWASP. It's all the same. We can all ask for funds in the same way. There are some funds out there to like say, hey, I want to go to the security conference. My business doesn't support it, but I'm active in my local chapter. Will you guys help sponsor me to this function? They do that. One of the big things about OWASP is application security is still in its infancy. We've been working on it for a long time. Those of you, a lot of you raise your hands that you're in the information security or web development area. This is still an evolving area. You think about it, Microsoft dropped their memo on security in late 2001, I think it was. So they've been sort of looking at this for 12 years now, but web security is constantly evolving, and the idea of that is still relatively new. How long, can any of you remember the first time you heard about a cross-site scripting or cross-site request forgery vulnerability? It probably wasn't that long ago. The first OWASP Top 10 was in 2007, and it's still evolving. It's on its 4th iteration. It's being discussed as a new one right now. But this is still a massively evolving area. And so there's a lot to learn and a lot to do. We can't improve what we can't measure, and that's part of what OWASP is about. There are tools out there to try and help you quantify vulnerabilities and find them and measure them and see how many there are, because it's the old adage, you can't manage what you can't measure. So there are tools to learn how to do that. We're highly encouraging of experimentation, of people trying new things to find it. We want to share what works and what doesn't work. We do that at conferences, we do that in meetings like this, we do that with our tools. Collaboration, and the organization's been around for about 10 years now, believe it or not. We've only been in Louisville for 4 years, I think. Maybe less than that. 2010, I think, was our first meeting. Is that right, Brian?
That's not right.
Yeah, okay, 2010 was our first meeting. So we're about 3 years old. We've been operating sort of on a quarterly model up to this point. If we see more participation and you guys are interested in having more often meetings, a lot of chapters meet once a month. And there are a lot of great speakers out there that are willing to come talk, who are experts in their field, that will happily come and talk to us about whatever topic we're interested in, whether that's authentication or identity or how to use web scanners in a certain way or using OWASP projects and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about what OWASP looks like. I mentioned this a little bit a while ago. We get about 15,000 downloads of the things we give away a month. We get 30,000 unique visitors. That's a lot of people. 2 million plus website hits a month. That's massive. For a 501(c), that's really big. We are cited in industry, government, and standards bodies left and right. How many times has someone come to sell you something in your business and, hey, we're compliant with the OWASP top 10? That's becoming a big deal. And again, I mentioned a little bit about participation in chapters worldwide. And that participation is mostly in these projects, and we call them projects, not products because we don't sell them. There's a little over 140 out there. There are 3 types of these. There's the protect area. These are tools that you can use to document and guard against some security related, some WAF kind of stuff out there, web application firewalls that OWASP has. There's detection tools like ZAP, Z-Attack Proxy, if you've never heard of that, where you proxy through your browser and you can passively or actively find vulnerabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about that one as well. And then there's life cycles. Hey, how do you build an SDLC? How do you manage an SDLC? What kind of things might you want to check for in an SDLC of these kinds of web application products? And the foundation itself is a really interesting mix as well. The current project mix is almost half documentation, because that's a lot of what has to go on here. Is people just need to learn what's going on. Only this little chunk here, about 9% is code. We don't have a ton of code. That is growing. And then the last part is this tools section. Again, getting close to half. That one's growing pretty quick. There's a lot of new tools that are coming along. And you might not be able to read back there, but there's a bunch of stuff here too. Like, hey, what's the status of these things? Are they in flagship? Are they incubator? Are we trying to merge them? There was about 20% of projects that we were looking to merge together because they were crossing similar fields. So there's a lot out there, and if you are a developer who just wants to grow your skills or get more involved or gain mastery of something, there's a bunch of projects to get involved with. It's a huge list. This is just the new stuff from 2012. I borrowed this slide deck from another OWASP leader who gave this mid-2012, and this was his 6-month slide. So I know the list is longer than this list. There's a lot on here. I mean, you've got Java stuff, you've got academic portals to reach schools, you've got eSAPI for people still using IIS, you've got WebScare, lots of Java stuff, you've got data fiddlers down here, you've got more proxies, cloud projects. If you haven't heard of iGoat, that's a lot of fun. iGoat is like WebGoat. You guys heard of WebGoat? Nobody? Raise your hand if you heard of WebGoat. Okay, a handful of you. So WebGoat is a free, purposely broken web application. It's designed to teach people. So it's broken to begin with, and then you use the tools to find the flaws and figure out how to fix them. That whole thing is given away. iGoat is the same idea for iPhone. So it's a purposely broken iPhone application. So that as a developer, if you're developing for mobile, you can find out how things are broken and then learn how to fix them. So if you're developing an iPhone app for your company, you might want to look at that. They need a lot of help. In short, I mentioned a lot of this already. Membership, if you're not a coder, you want to help out with membership. Public relations. Project managers, I know they're looking right now for a project manager for one of the, I can't remember off the top of my head. I read an email last night at like midnight on the OWASP list. But they need just someone to help manage a project with somebody else. He's so overworked because the project has become so popular. You just need some help. Technical editors, you're a writer, but you want to do some technical writing? We need some technical editors. Grant writers, we're actually asking for money from governments and things like that. Anything you might have an interest in, there's probably a place for you, not just in the local chapter, but higher up in OWASP Global. There's a lot of chapters, and this grows all the time. We're probably seeing some of our largest growth here in Africa. Africa is really, really taking off in this. The United States is growing pretty steadily. Europe is pretty steadily growing still as well. We've got 174 active with 388 chapter leaders. And by chapter leaders, they don't just mean one person. A lot of chapters run with multiple chapter leaders. We're running with a pretty small crew right now because we're just trying to rebuild this. So if you are interested in getting involved, you can see me or Brian or Adrian or anybody else. I guarantee you we need some help trying to put this stuff together. And there are regional and national events that we're going to talk about in a second too. 1,552 plus on 20,000 participants. That's a lot. And there's a lot of people involved in this. I'm pretty sure that you will meet someone who has a similar interest in you or has experience that you can build off of as well within OWASP. That's a little breakdown of where the numbers are in terms of people. We're pretty heavy in West Coast and East Coast, of course, Silicon Valley and New York and those areas where you have lots of companies, especially banks, are really interested in this stuff. And then this year we have some really neat conferences coming up. OWASP AppSec USA is in New York this year. It was in Houston last year. It was wildly successful. You will see some of the world's experts in application security giving talks about how to use tools. They have training classes. They have codathons where a bunch of guys just get together, guys and girls I should say, get together in a room and hack away and build something really neat. It's a lot of fun. It's not like RSA or Black Hat where it's full of, Black Hat's full of hackers and RSA is full of people trying to sell you stuff. OWASP is very different from that. You've got a little bit of the hacking ethos where people are building stuff, but you don't have the people trying to sell you stuff, which is pretty cool. And then there's AppSec EU. This year it's in Hamburg, Germany. I think last year was in Greece. And these are put on by the local chapters. So the local chapters say, hey, we want to be the host for AppSec USA. We want to have it in our area. The advantage of that is the chapter then gets to keep the proceeds from what it does to funnel back into its chapter. So they could use that for, say, hey, we want to send members to the next AppSec USA. We've got sponsorships for those people who otherwise couldn't get it from their employers or other places. And then there's lots of little events. Like here's one coming up in Denver, Colorado. It's called Snowfrock. The slide deck I actually stole this from Snowfrock last year. India's got a little conference coming up. There's another one in the Netherlands. There's still, we don't know who's the keynotes yet. Dates are set. So if you have an interest in learning a lot more from the people who really are the experts, you might want to stick these on your calendar and think about it. And they're very affordable conferences. There's a little idea of where conferences were last year. All those little spots are conferences. The bigger ones are the larger conferences. So they're regional and international. And a lot of them, if you get a call for paper, you submit a call for paper and get selected, again, you can get funds to travel if your business doesn't otherwise cover it. The OWASP Summit was actually a really cool event. This happened right before I joined Mozilla in 2011. And they got a bunch of people together just to talk about where are we going as a worldwide organization. And it was open to anyone who wanted to show up. Of course, for some of us, it was a little far away in Portugal. But it was very valuable. You had, like they said, people from pen testing, localization, SDLC, server component. It was all over the map. Because we are open, it's about where we want to go and what we want to do, which is what you all want to do, not about what I want to do. 180 application security experts from 120 companies, 30 countries, 44 chapters. And that's pretty cool when you think about it. And these are people volunteering their time, just like you. Who supports this kind of stuff? I've actually got 2 or 3 slides, and they're probably bad, because we've actually had like 40 or 50 more companies join in who give OWASP money to do some of this stuff. Some of the biggest players, Amazon, Acunix, and NetIQ, they're hugely supportive of the work we do. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about how Mozilla supports OWASP in its mission. This is actually our security team. I'm back there. I'm the ugly guy in the background. We had a meeting in London last year. We had a new office open in London. We have a bunch of European folks who got tired of traveling to the US to talk all the time, so we decided we'd travel to that. So that is the entire security assurance team at Mozilla. That's the whole thing. That's our operations security team, that's our web security team, that's our client security team, that's our fuzz testers, and that's the 2 program managers. Me and Al. That's it. That's the whole team. It's a really diverse group that hugely supports OWASP. We have 5 chapter leaders. My boss in Canada is actually one of them. We have 2 in the United Kingdom, and then we have myself and 1 in Seattle office. The foundation chair, Michael Coates, is actually the director of Mozilla Security. He's the big guy at the top of the chain. I talked about, he got elected to the chair position. I think he just got re-elected. It's his 2nd year. Really great guy, easy to talk to, really, really, really smart, really awesome. And we support a bunch of projects. One of those chapter leaders in the UK is actually the guy that writes Zap. We call him Sign-On, P-S-I-N-N-O-N. I don't know why he has that nickname, but he does. His name is Simon. Simon is really awesome. And I already talked to him. He says, if you want me to speak to your local chapter, I'll be happy to do that. And we'll actually, he doesn't have to get on a plane. He's got it worked out where he can do it by video chat. So he'll show up virtually and show us how to use Zap if that's one of the things we want to do as a chapter. Of course, we're hugely involved with the OWASP Top 10, providing feedback to them about what we see in web application security projects. Because we have a big pile of web apps out there for anyone to use. And then speakers and conferences. I get to speak at here. I speak at a lot of other conferences as well. I've sat on a few different places just to talk about application security, get it out there. We think it's hugely important. And as a security organization, we do everything in the open. You can literally attend the security reviews we do. I publicize them. That's part of my job. I say, hey, here's the day they're going to be, here's the time, here's the phone number. You want to come and poke at our stuff, here you go. Here's the bug, where the bugs are. Here's the code base, this is what we're going to talk about. We literally do security reviews in the open so that anyone can learn. If there's something that's dangerous that we don't think is appropriate for the public, we do that out of public purvey. But once it is fixed, we make that public. All of our security bugs are public. They are open, unless they are actively being fixed. So it's very easy to go back and look through our code base on our websites and our software to figure out what was done and to learn from it. And to give feedback, because we love feedback. And we are massive users of OWASP tools. We use Zap internally to test our stuff. We use the web application firewalls on a day-to-day basis. And the difference between us and other people that consume it is we not only tell you what we're using, where we're using, and how we're using it, we tell you what we find as shortcomings and how we modify it, so you can use it for yourself as well. Mozilla being an open source project, much like OWASP, is massively into sharing. That was a huge culture shock for me because I came from a healthcare company before that. When I first started, I described it as going from Stalinist North Korea into classical Athens, Greece. It was that different of a culture. They literally expected me to share everything I could possibly share. Unless you have to have a really good reason not to talk about it publicly to hide it at Mozilla. Everything is on our wiki or in a bug or somewhere where anybody can get at it. I'm going to keep this pretty brief. So that's my thank you to all of you for being here and listening to me prattle on about this. If you have questions, please ask them. This is really an introduction thing. If you want to ask me questions about Mozilla, you can ask me questions about Mozilla or OWASP or anything else. We didn't have a whole ton, but we did want to have you all come out and talk to us about where you want this chapter to go, because that's the important part. I adapted this from Snowfrock 2012, so thank you to Matt Tessero, who's also an OWASP board member. And that's some other stuff he had in there that I don't think we need to talk about, unless you really want to. Questions, comments, smart remarks. Please don't throw soda cans, they hurt.
So are there any projects left over from before our local chapter kind of took a nap here that
we weren't really that involved yet. Mostly our local chapter was really trying to get the word out about application security and help get people involved. We hadn't really started any projects. I think we'd like to. We've had a couple of meetings with ISACA and ISSA about doing more at their conferences that they already have here in town. They were very nice to allow us to come in and have a table at their last conference and have a session to just talk about OWASP a little bit. So really, we don't have anything on the table at all, to be honest. We're restarting from the ground. So whatever you all are interested in doing, I'm more than interested in helping you get it done. If there's a speaker you want to have come out or a topic you're really, really interested in, you can let me or Brian or just shout it out here and we'll see what we can do about finding someone to do that. Like I said, Simon Bennett works on Zap. He's more than willing to come in and show you how to use the Z-Attack proxy. It's got some amazing new features. He just put out version 2. It's got a passive scanner that will find most of the OWASP top 10. It's got an active scanner that will definitely find the OWASP top 10 plus some more. You can use it to actively attack a site, which is turned off by default, to do that at your own risk with permission. It can log all the stuff that it does. You can do replay attacks. He just put a plug-in framework in it so you can actually pull in logs from other things and replay what happened in the log or shoot it back out to a Ceph log. It's getting really cool. It's got a fuzzing component in it, so you can fuzz against a website versus its inputs to figure out what's going on. It's an amazing tool. So if you all have an interest in that, like I said, he's more than willing to come and talk about not only the tool, but how you can get involved in writing code for it. I think it's mostly written in Java and JavaScript. I'm not sure what the plugin framework's written in. That's brand new. And on top of that, Mozilla is actually sponsoring a mentorship program. It's something I'm working on this year, where if you're interested in donating up to 10 hours a week of your time, we'll hook you up with a developer on our side that will mentor you in how to build some of the tools we're looking to build in the open. So if you're worried about just doing it on your own and digging through a bunch of code, we've got experts who just don't have time to write the stuff. They need, there's so much work to do that we're building a mentorship program. And some of those are around Zap. We actually have 4 mentorship slots around Zap. I think 3 of them are currently filled by university students who are just really interested in writing some code. But we've got a lot of stuff going on. Mozilla is supporting that effort. It's almost Summer of Code-like with Google, only we're doing it in the open and we're doing it across the board. So to answer your question, no, we don't have anything. It's ground floor, let's go. It's whatever you all are interested in.
So how do we keep up to date on the resources like you just described?
The easiest way is you go into the wiki and you can subscribe to a page. Anytime a change shows up, you will get a notification. Actually, the best thing I would suggest you do is go on the page, find something you're interested in, and join that. They used to be called committees, but they just renamed them to something else. They decided that standing committees sounded too formal. And so they're calling it something else. Basically, they discuss it over email. They use Google Hangouts if they want to have a video chat kind of thing. Find a project you're interested in. There's a mailing list for every single project that you can join and get involved that way. That's probably the easiest way. But yeah, there's a lot going on. Trust me, as a quote-unquote chapter leader, the chapter's leaders list is massively busy. I think I've got like 500 unread emails in my inbox, and as an inbox 0 kind of guy, it makes me twitch every night. My email's just not done.
I have a couple questions. First of all, I'm John Kunkel. I'm from the Hackerspace. I'm a member of the Hackerspace. Maybe some of you guys have heard of it or been there. And I guess I'm wondering why we're here in this building, which is very nice compared to the Hackerspace. This is a very nice facility. And I was wondering, would it be ongoing here? Would the meetings continue here, or would you maybe looking for a more centralized place?
We're more than happy to move them around. We've met at Sullivan University. We've met at the public library in Louisville. We've met at a building. We move them around because the area our chapter covers is actually quite large. We go from Frankfurt all the way here into southern Indiana. We're here today because Heartland, Brian, was nice enough to let us come in for free. It's what we could get free and quick to try and put our first meeting together. If you all want to host a meeting at level 3, we'd be happy to do that too.
I think that would be real easy to do. We have an open calendar, and for the most part, you just have to pair up with somebody who's a member so you can get access to the building at any point in time. I'd be happy to do that myself. I'm more interested in security now as a sort of semi-retired person because I see there's a lot of potential in the security area, and there's a lot of niche sort of places where you can specialize in. So I hope that maybe we could do something at the Hackerspace. And were you referring to DerbyCon?
Well, there's DerbyCon and MossCon.
Okay.
I'm looking at speaking at both.
Okay, well, great. I just happened to hear about this because of the open source meeting, which I also go to.